Hi, everyone. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate Rural Talk Radio Network, which is a subsidiary of Global Media Network, LLC. Our mantra is to educate, enlighten, and entertain. The views of the guest may not represent those of the host of the station. Folks, I am so excited to have the special guest with me today. I'm not only excited, I am honored. I am in awe of my guest. She is phenomenal. And I'm going to tell you about my guest before I introduce her. My guest today is Susie Singer-Carter. She was a caregiver for her mom, Norma. She is an award-winning writer. She's a director, producer, playwright. She's an actress, a fierce, and I do mean a fierce advocate. She is host of Love Conquers Health podcast, which was 2020 Best Podcast. She also has a comedy horror podcast, I Love Lucifer. She is CEO of Go Girl Media. Love that name. And in 2018, she had an Oscar-qualified short film called My Mom and the Girl, which had Valerie Harper, which played her mom. And if you're all at my age, you know Valerie Harper from Mary Tyler Moore and Rhoda. She was a phenomenal actress. And also, I have to say, I am proud, I am honored to be part of the documentary that Susie Singer-Carter has made called No Country for Old People, a documentary about nursing homes, treatment of the elderly, which was inspired by her mom's last 6 months of life. And I do want to dedicate this podcast and honor Susie's mom, Norma Pecora. Welcome, Susie Singer-Carter, to Chatting with Betsy.
Oh, my gosh, Betsy. Well, you know, I could just turn that back right on you and just say how much I love you and just admire you and your chutzpah, as they say in French, and everything. You know, you're just very authentic, and authenticity is a beautiful thing. And you know, when you speak to truth, it's a powerful thing, and I admire it and I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. I am so honored to have you on, Susie, and be part of your documentary because you pull back the curtain, no holds barred, as they say, and your passion and your drive is so authentic and is so there, and it's because of your mom that you were inspired to do this documentary. Can you tell the audience about your mom's story?
Yes. I mean, so, you know, I was my mom's caregiver, hands-on, but not hands-on all the time, you know, but her, what they call in California, the conservator of person. So, but more than that, she was my best friend and my daughter's best friend. She's, you know, she was our matriarch. We adore her. And she ended up going into a nursing home because long-term care comes in when people, you know, when on a long-term disease like Alzheimer's. My mom's lasted for 16 years. You know, eventually you get to a point where you need more help than the family can provide. And so yes. My mom ended up in a a 5-star facility here in Los Angeles, and I felt like and I said it all the time in my podcast, I felt relief because I felt like, oh, I can sleep. She's going to be so well taken care of, right? And so I, you know, of course I visited my mom all the time, but I just felt like I could sleep at night because I didn't have to be, you know, like a helicopter daughter, for lack of a better word. And it turned out I was wrong, and I didn't know it until COVID. And COVID was really, you know, what it did was it really pulled the curtain back on the issues of long-term care that have been there for 5 decades, but we didn't really see it because now we were in this emergency situation, and all the things that they were cutting edges on, they were cutting their corners on, were now coming back to bite them in the tush, because they because of the pandemic, they didn't have enough staff, they didn't have enough PPE, all those things that they needed during that time, and then with all the other things that now I've since found out, and now I'm exposing throughout my documentary, when you talk about things about oversight and enforcement and things like that are fairly non-existent. So during that time, that it was such a tragedy and disaster for our long-term care community, because they really took the brunt of it, because the long-term care industry has been in a crisis. And so it took another crisis to just demolish it, and demolish it did. And and that's so during that time when I could only Zoom with my mom, she ended up being completely neglected, as did many people. 200,000 of our loved ones died within the first couple months that lived in nursing homes from COVID and other diseases, because they weren't taken care of. And these are people that wouldn't have died otherwise, right? So that's true. And that is such a when you think about that number and the fact that no one's talking about it, it tells you everything you need to know about ageism, about ableism, about the industry of nursing homes. And, because if that amount of people, right? I mean, if that amount of people died in any other situation, it's like that's like what happens we didn't lose that many people in Vietnam, Americans. So it's unbelievable, but, we write it off because we say they're old, they were going to die anyway, but, we're all going to die anyway. So, right. It's all how we look at it. It's the perspective, it's the framework that we put all of this in and look at it. So back to my mom, she ended up in the hospital with a stage 4 pressure wound, bedsore. I, like probably 90% of the people listening, did not know what a bedsore was. Didn't know the severity of what a bedsore is. There's stages of them from 1 to 4. My mom had a stage 4, and
oh my goodness, they are right to the bone.
Right to the bone.
Her bone
and they are
shown?
Horrendous. At the end,
they are. Yeah. I've seen them. Yes. Yeah.
They're horrendous. And when I first thought about it, I thought, bedsore. Oh, you're lying on your leg too long. That's when you've crossed your legs too long and it's red and it's sore. I seriously had no idea. And, everything was justified. Everything, the nursing home was like, oh, well, it didn't happen here. So, apparently it happened on the way from the nursing home to the hospital, right? And, what happens with bed sores is that they are the trigger for everything else that can happen to someone who's already vulnerable, right? Who has my mom was not bedridden, but she was in a wheelchair. So when someone's immobile and you have a bed sore and it's not being taken care of, now you're going to, without a doubt, it's going to turn into sepsis, which turns into pneumonia, which turns into, affects your kidney function, and so on and so on and so on. And those kinds of situations are horrible, and that's what happened to my mother, and that was because they just didn't take care of her. And when she was returned back from the hospital, they continued not to want to care for her. They wanted to just put her on morphine and let her die, instead of taking care of her and bringing her back to where she was, her base before this all happened. So my mom wasn't ready to die. I knew that because we communicate. So I was saying my mother is still enjoying whatever life she has. She has great-grandchildren that are just being born. She wants to be a part of that. They want her to be a part of it. And, And she was loving life. I used to go to see my mom. I say, "How are you, Mommy?" "I'm great. I'm alive. Life is good. The alternative sucks," right?
Right.
And so, but they wanted to convince me that, no, let's just give her morphine. She's going to succumb to this wound. And I kept saying to them, but she'll succumb if you don't take care of it. So would you. So would you. So, I fought with them for 6 months. My mom hung on for 6 months being tortured. And
I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
That your mom had to go through that and your family, because that's just not acceptable.
It was horrific. And the details get worse. I mean, what they did to her, she went into the hospital. I wasn't there because of COVID. And this is what happened, even though I was her POA, she was, no one called to tell me, oh, now that she has pneumonia, we're going to intubate her. They intubated her. They gave her a G tube, which she didn't need, which is a feeding tube in her belly. My mom lived to eat. Food was her life, and was eating just fine up until then. Then, they convinced me, well, we're not going to take it out. It's too invasive. Well, when you watch my documentary, you'll find out that it's the opposite of invasive. Putting in a G tube is invasive, and there's no evidence, scientific evidence that extends anyone's life, unless you're in a coma and you're trying to keep somebody alive. Other than that, it is a horrible existence. And that means she was put on NPO, which is nothing by mouth, which was, again, yet another torture. Why did they put her on NPO? Because they didn't want to take the time to help her eat again, because it's too time consuming. Why don't they want to do that? Because they're understaffed. Why are they understaffed? Because staffing is your biggest, amount of cost in a business. And so, that is where these nursing home, chains, which most of them are now, 70% in the country are, 90% in California where I live, private equity, that's the first thing they do is cut down on staff. And they underpay them, and they overwork them, and it's a vicious cycle. So that's why, when someone's acuity, jumps up, suddenly they're thrown into hospice. They're given, antipsychotic drugs to keep them very, very calm and quiet, and and they're not there yet. I mean, all that stuff is great when you're ready, like your husband, right? I get it. There's times
right.
when it should happen, and then there's times when it shouldn't happen. And all of those decisions are based on economics. How can they build the most? Where can they build the most and put the least amount of work in? And that's it. It's profit over people.
Susie, I'll tell you what. Folks, I get verklempt sometimes. It's a very emotional show, because I can relate to Susie. And, my heart goes out to you. I worked as a nurse's aide in the 70s, 74, 75, in a nursing home. I know what went on. It was disgusting. It was awful what I witnessed as a teenager.
It's awful. And you're such a testament to the fact that it's been going on for decades and decades and decades. This business model isn't new. This whole idea of private equity and the REITs, the real estate investments, all that stuff, that's been going on since the 60s, and there's just, and even with, all of the regulations that are put in, which frankly are good, they're written well, they're just not enforced. And they're not, and the oversight is horrendous. And everything is a slap on the hand or the cost of doing business. The fines are so low. And most states have caps on any kind of legal, repercussion. So there's very, very, low caps. So it's almost it's not worth it from anybody at a certain point to take issue to court, right? It's very time consuming, it's expensive, and it's long, and it's draining. So they know that. And our nursing home lobby, which is the industry, which you would think nursing home lobby, they're lobbying for the rights of people that are utilizing nursing homes. They're not. They're lobbying for the owners. And they're very strong. They're powerful. They're on par with, all of them, pharmaceuticals, our gun lobbyists. They are very powerful. They've embedded themselves in our legislation, which is why traditional advocacy isn't working. Even if a bill gets passed, it's not enforced.
I think, Susie, in my dealings I worked in a state institution for the severely disabled. Mm-hmm. And with Matt's case, I have found people in the hospitals, they don't care. They don't care how they treat the disabled. They don't care how they treat those with dementia. And it's disgusting that people are treated subhumanly just because they have a disability or they have a illness that affects their brain. Mm-hmm. And I remember one client went out to a hospital. She came back. She had a bedsore on her head.
I've seen that. It's horrifying.
I worked as a nurse, so I know about bed sores. And to stage 4 is gross, and it is very it's a bad situation that you don't even want it to get that way. As soon as you see a red spot, you got to do something. You got to be on that.
Exactly. Can I just interject on that one?
Sure.
That by CMS, which is the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, by their own laws, that bed sores are a never event. They should never happen. That's why they don't get reported, because not so much because they're going to get penalized, other than it'll affect their star rating. So if their star rating gets affected, that's their marketing, right? So they don't get reported enough, but they really truly are a never event, because they should never happen. If someone is being cared for, like you just said, if a red spot shows up, okay, this person has too much pressure on this part of their body. We need to move them. We need to care for that. When it gets to stage 2, okay, maybe they missed it. Stage 3 and stage 4, that's neglect.
Yes, that is. It reminds me of a story, Susie, of a guy I used to know. He had died. His mom, he had a lawsuit in, I think it was Ohio, that his mom had a stage 4 bed sore, and she was in a nursing home during COVID, and he knew it was neglect, and he had filed complaints about it. But then not long after his mother died, maybe a few months later, he died. Common among caregivers, but it's such a horrible situation. And I know in New Jersey, many, many people died in nursing homes and in the VA hospital that's near me. Actually, one nursing home got emptied out. They had to empty out those clients. It's so horrible, because when you pay a nursing home or assisted living, and you're paying anywhere, depending where you live, what facility, anywhere, I'm going to say from $8,000 to $10,000, maybe even more a month. And this is the care that you get because people are not properly trained. They are not properly staffed, and they've never been staffed. Hospitals and nursing homes have not been properly staffed, and I'm glad to see people complaining about it now and demanding safe ratios, because it is unsafe. I worked a night shift where I had 12 to 18 patients.
Yeah,
I can't give proper care. No, I can't. No. I couldn't.
You absolutely can't.
And that's 40 years ago.
And this is this is the problem too, is that this system that we have doesn't just affect the residents; it affects our providers, our frontline healthcare caregivers. They are being abused. They have moral injury. They go home and they feel horrible because they can't care for their, people, their residents, their patients, the way they want to, the way they were trained to, the good ones,
That's
the
right.
vocational. And so they go, and many of them are leaving the industry because it's too hard to be a part of it. They can't. I mean, the stress on them. On doctors alone, the suicide rate has just gone sky high because it's too stressful. And if you have empathy, if you have compassion, it's a liability in this kind of in the system that we have today. It's a liability. So you end up with the people that can stomach it. Generally, don't have a lot of compassion or a lot of empathy because how could they? Right?
Yeah,
because
you
in
have
order to work there,
yes, true. Yeah, I found, and this is 40 years ago, that you have to kind of keep your humanity on one hand and yet shut yourself off on another hand so you could survive doing your job. Because even 40 years ago, I'd go home and it would bother me. I couldn't give the care that I wanted to give, and they can't.
Exactly.
Because they made it impossible. When Matt finally went up to the hospice unit in the hospital, the hospice doctor said that his hands are tied. There's certain protocol they have to follow. And even following the protocol, Medicare can take away their payment if they feel that they didn't follow the protocol. So it is an awful situation. And I know I had mentioned this, I believe, in your documentary, that end-of-life care, it shouldn't be a battle to get decent end-of-life care for someone who has Alzheimer's. And why do they think people who have dementia or who have a cognitive disability don't feel pain? That's absurd. It just makes me want to shake somebody.
I know. I'll share this with you too. It's like, my mother started after she was intubated. She really lost her ability to speak. Okay, and which and that happens with Alzheimer's anyway. But this exasperated it, and most people, and the people that are dementia experts. And also speech language pathologists that understand what happens when you're intubated. Even people without, dementia or Alzheimer's, you need occupational therapy to get your swallowing back, your speech back, because it is a huge, to be intubated is no joke. It is joke. And so, so what happened was, I was kept saying my mother is dying to drink, dying to eat. Like I was going in there and letting her suck on a sponge with juice, and she was like, she wanted to eat the sponge. And she wasn't aspirating, which means you're choking on your food. She wasn't. And she was fine. They just didn't, they used that as an excuse. Like, well, we can't because she's going to aspirate. We can't take that risk. And I said, but this is no life sitting there month after month staring at a wall unless I'm there. It's cruel, it's torture, and it has to stop, but it didn't stop. And they sent in a chaplain to talk to me, I didn't ask for a chaplain. They sent her in to tell me, to assure me that my mom was okay because she had Alzheimer's. She had holes in her brain. And that she wasn't really aware of anything that was going on. And
oh my goodness!
It took everything in my soul to just not turn around and go, lady, you have holes in your brain. You don't know a thing about Alzheimer's. I do. I've been dealing with this for 16 years, and my mom is communicating to me extremely well without words. I know exactly what's up with her. She laughs, she cries, she smiles, she's kissing me. She's there. You can't tell me she's not there. She's not brain dead. And,
Susie, I had
it's despicable.
I had an experience with the chaplain, the hospice chaplain. She was supposed to come to the house. She never did. She saw me in Matt's room. She came in, And I told her I was upset because I felt that Matt suffered more than he should have because of incompetence. And she had the nerve to stand there and say to me, well, he's not suffering now. I said, of course not. He's doped up with morphine and Ativan and I forgot what else, concoction.
Haldol and yeah.
Haldol. I mean,
yeah.
Excuse me. Yes. How dare her tell me he wasn't suffering? He didn't suffer. I'm like, you can't tell me he didn't suffer because he was suffering. That's why he was agitated. He was agitated. Exactly. He was dying, and nobody would believe me. And, you know, you spoke up for your mom, Susie. I spoke up for Matt. What about these people who have no one to speak up for them?
They're screwed. Sorry. You know, they just are. They just are because, you know, you and I both know how hard it was, and I didn't really get satisfaction, you know, till the very, not even, I mean, I fought till the very end, and you know, when you watch the documentary, I think your hair on your arms will stand up because the gaslighting that goes on and the, you know, just the blatant lies. And when you know they're just absolutely lying to you, and the lack of empathy and the lack of compassion and the lack of understanding the ignorance of our healthcare system in terms of, you know, disabilities, which is why I'm shining a light on the ableism, because ableism is so prevalent in our healthcare system, you know, and that comes from, you know, not educating people on elder care. You know, it's just like having a specialty for children. You have pediatricians because their bodies are different than you know, adults, right? They respond differently. Right. They need different kind of care, as do when our bodies begin to age. We need specialty care. There's different. We don't take the same drugs. The same drugs that a 30-year-old could take will put us out. Would kill us, right? An elder person.
Right.
So, and you know, all kinds of different things that work. So also, and it comes down to communication. When, you know, people don't stop communicating, if they're happy, like my mom was happy, she's kissing, she's smiling, she's going, that's, you know, she doesn't need words. Babies don't need words. Babies communicate. We know when a baby's in pain. We know when a baby's happy. We know when they're hungry. Why don't we give that grace to our aging population? Why?
Oh, that's
because they're not cute.
True.
They're not baby, right? They're cute to me. They're my, you know, as they're cute to the ones that love their loved ones. They're everything to us. So you know, that is the problem. That is one of the biggest problems. Is that we need to shift the way we perceive growing older. People, you know, and you know, it's weird, Betsy, is that, you know, a lot of people in our community that are wonderful advocates, right, and activists and for anti-aging, and you know, there's this big thing about, well, what can we use the word other than old or grow, you know, aging, and it's like, but the truth is that is the word. We are aging, and you know, it's not a bad word, and neither is old, because why is it a bad word? That's what we do. We get older. Yes. So you know, I don't know we can't put a euphemism on it, because then we really are just feeding into that ageism. Do you agree?
That's true. I mean, I agree totally. I mean, I'm 66. So when people talk about aging in place and the elderly and seniors, I have to think, well, I'm in that group now. It's mind-boggling. But I saw you, it was a clip you did on LinkedIn. It might be part of your documentary when you talked about gaslighting.
Yes.
And I was like screaming here in New Jersey, going, yes, Susie, you got that right. You go, girls. That's why I love the name of Go Girl Media. But
thank you.
How true that is, because that nasty social worker from hospice came to my house and tried to gaslight me, tried to tell me it was my fault Matt was agitated, that I wasn't given the medicine right, and I put her in her place real quick. Do not come to my house and disrespect me. Don't even think about it. And I had to put her in her place. And
no, gaslighting it's out. Go on.
It's crazy. How dare she, a social worker, tell me that Matt couldn't have a headache?
It's absurd. It's ignorant. It's ignorance. Again, it's like people that shouldn't be doing that job because maybe they're not trained right. And people that would like to do that job, would be good at that job. They're not appreciated. They're not paid well enough. They're not given the benefits to stay in that career. So they're not incentivized to stay in that career. And it becomes a lose-lose. So we're forced to work with people that really aren't vocational. It's like sometimes a side gig for them, and this is the last place that should have people that are there as a side gig. I mean, it's the worst place for that. And the gaslighting goes on in so many subtle ways, so many subtle ways. And like, we're doing this, it's the best for your mom. It really is. This is the best for her. We know this is what she needs. She needs this. Or you get the social worker, you're not there. I just checked in on your mom. She looks very comfortable and really everything's good. She's comfortable, and you walk in an hour later and the room is scorching hot. There's no lights on. There's no music on, nothing. She's lying on her side in sweat in a dark room. But for some reason, they report that she's resting comfortably.
I saw that in a clip of the documentary. I think it was the No Country for Old People, where you show your mom with the fans on. There was no air conditioning.
No air conditioning. None at all. They were like, and that was because she was, they didn't want to think that she was too high maintenance at that point, which they made her high maintenance. She wasn't high maintenance before. They made her high maintenance, and then they put her in the wing, which was like the quarantine wing, where there was nobody there. We were saying it's so hot. Why is it so hot? Oh, their air conditioning's not working on this side, and it's like, well, clearly, but it needs to be fixed, or she needs to move. Like, we couldn't sit in there. The family members, it was stifling hot in, San Fernando Valley in any time in the San Fernando Valley, if it's not winter even, even in the winter, it's hot. It's hot. With windows that don't open, right? Because, you can't have windows that open in a nursing home. So you've got it, and they didn't think to put a fan even. So I had to go out and buy like 4 fans to get circulation going. It's ridiculous. And that's a 5-star. And it's the most. I'm not going to say the name of it because I have promised not to, but I will tell you this is one of the most respected in our city.
Wow, can you imagine that, folks? Stifling hot in Los Angeles, and being in a room. I remember when I worked at the state institution, they would put the heat on, whether they needed it or not, in October, and it was sweating. I mean, the patients were just sweating. The tape to their dressings wouldn't even stay on. I had to call maintenance, and I said, listen, you got to come down here, shut this heat off, or these people are going to be going out to the hospital with seizures, because they weren't going to send anyone. I said, well, if you want them to go out to the hospital with seizures, then that's what's going to happen, because they're going to be seizing.
Exactly. I mean, how is anybody? Yeah. How are you supposed to heal in when you're sweating in your bed, and you are? I mean, and you're sweating, and I'm blowing air on my mom because she's so hot. But we all know that that's not healthy either, right? So and the truth is, everybody, that nursing homes go into this business that is to take care of our vulnerable and our elders, right? So that is what they do. That is the definition of a nursing home. That is their job. They need to know how to take care of people at all acuities. And if they don't, they shouldn't take them into their facility, period. End of report. They need to either do what they set up to do or don't do it. But the ones that do and or don't are still getting reimbursed from federal money, which is Medicare and Medicaid. So there becomes the systemic problem is that, they're still getting money whether they do a good job or not.
Yeah, that's true. And the same thing with hospice. They get paid whether they do a good job or not.
And hospice gets paid the best. The hospice gets paid the most, which is why you find, and in my documentary we talk about it. I mean, all of my experts say, I do a whole montage of them saying hospice is big business, and it is, because Medicare pays the highest rates for daily rates, some up to and over $1,000 a day. That's $30,000 a month. And when you're right? When you're basically just giving somebody some psychotic, antipsychotic drugs to keep them sleepy and pain-free, that's good cash. They don't have to put any time into this person.
That's true. I know. No, this is 5 years ago, Susie. It was because I saw the bill. It was over $4,000, not quite $5,000, but it was between closer to 5 than it was 4, like in the middle there. A little over $4,000 that Medicare was charged for hospice. Now that was also the in-home, which Matt didn't really get any care at all, but a nurse coming once a week, couldn't believe anything I said. I fired the aide because they were terrible. So they didn't really do anything for him until he got up to that hospice unit, and that was for 9 days.
Right.
Filed report.
The home care is a joke,
Yeah.
I mean, and listen, I know there's people out there that's going to say we had a great experience,
and that's great.
And that's great. And those do happen. Those are the outliers, though. And I know this from talking to being involved in this, arena now for 2 years and really immersed myself in with all the experts. I know that the good ones are there, but they are too few. And so most people get the bad care, and that's unacceptable. Just one place with bad care is unacceptable, but the majority, I'm talking the majority, are not good. And home care, they can get away with it because there's nobody looking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they have, and these people, all of these companies have to answer to a bigger corporation. So, they have to keep their bottom line a certain way. It's all rate of return, right? And it's just a business at the end of the day, but with people as widgets.
Yes, that's true.
And we've lost it. We're losing our humanity. We've lost a lot of humanity.
Yes.
And that is the sad part, and that's what keeps it going because, I was just talking to another colleague of mine, a filmmaker who's doing a film right now on, the term granny dropping, which is, when people can't take care of their loved ones, they drop them off in the streets because they can't take care of them. They don't know what to do. It's horrific. It goes on. But, that's because our system is not, the infrastructure on our system is just a mess. So if you can't afford assisted living and you can't apply for Medicare, then Medi-Cal, Medicaid. I'm in California, so it's Medi-Cal. You're stuck because there's nothing. Most people don't know what to do. They just don't know what to do. So the system is set up to fail for caregivers. And we shouldn't have to work that hard to figure out how it works.
That's true. That's very
true. There's plenty of money. There's billions and billions and trillions of dollars that are out there that are allocated to the care of our vulnerable. But it's being abstracted by greedy corporations, and that's just a fact. And so that's why I'm doing this documentary. I want people to know what I didn't know. I didn't know any of this at the time. I thought that it was just my mom's facility, but then, I I learned, soon into that I was dealing with a systemic crisis. This was not unusual. This was basically the standard of care that we're dealing with today.
Susie, where can or when will No Country for Old People, when can people see it, or where can they see it?
Okay, well, right now, so we are just finishing it, believe it or not, and it's been 2 years. My mom died in 2022, July, and I started it right after. So 2 years for a documentary is pretty swift on a documentary of this magnitude. So we're really proud that we've gotten to the end of it. We are now just finishing post on it, but there's all kinds of videos. We have an extended sizzle, which is a 25-minute sizzle. It'll give you a really good peek into what we're going to be talking about on our website, which is nocountryforoldpeople.com. And our fiscal sponsor is the National Consumer Voice for Quality Long-Term Care, who have been around since 1975. So that just tells you right there how long we've been fighting for quality care, right? And right. We're still raising money. If you would be, feel motivated to donate anything through the National Consumer Voice specifically for No Country for Old People, it's all tax deductible. And it goes, proceeds go to the film, to finish the film, and to a portion to the National Consumer Voice, who do an incredible job for our community and continue to. And we're really proud to work with them. So, yeah, there's trailers there and, individual, there's some, just like the gaslighting little clip that you were talking about is on the website. Mm-hmm. You can find it there. And, see, there's all kinds of little teasers that you can, watch and get a sense of what's going on. And hopefully will intrigue you to watch the entire thing. We hope it'll be out, this fall on a streamer. We want to be on a premium streamer like Netflix or Amazon or Peacock, wherever it lands. We just want the more people that can see it, the better, because it's really important. Because it's really, I say this is my tagline. It is maybe my mother's story, but it's really all of ours.
That's true. That's very true. And how can people see your short film, My Mom and the Girl?
Okay, well, My Mom and the Girl is on iTunes and movies, and it's on Amazon and PBS. But, I could also offer a link. So, I'd love people that, maybe can't afford to buy it, whatever. I'm happy to give you a free link for your listeners to watch it, because I think it's such an uplifting film.
I can't wait to see it. And how do people get in touch with you, Susie?
You can get in touch with me on any of the social media platforms. Susie Carter, Susie Singer Carter. Just remember that with an S, SUSIE, or GoGirlMedia.com is my website. And I'm pretty easy to find.
You are, folks. You are so amazing, Susie. I had to have you on again because, we didn't touch the surface. There's just so much we could discuss for hours. And you know what, Susie, you took your pain, and you kind of remind me of me in a way. You took your pain, turned it into a passion to help other people, to make other people aware. You are such a kick-butt advocate that for the older population, I'm one of them now in this country, and something's got to be done. And I'm thankful for people like you who are pulling back the curtain, popping the top off, and talking about what people don't want to know. But we have to discuss it, folks. And I want to thank you, Susie Singer Carter, for all that you do.
Thank you so much, Betty. I want to thank you for having me on. And allowing me a platform to talk about it, because it's so important to me. And I just want to say, that it really is all of our issue, because God willing, we all are going to get older, or we may somebody might need, long-term care in their 40s, in their 30s, in their whatever. It's all the same. So this system needs to change for all of us.
Yes, indeed. And folks, I'm proud to be part of this documentary, No Country for Old People.
Thank you.
Highly
she is
recommend.
So delightful. She's strong and delightful,
you.
And I love her. She got a voice on her, this one, but because you listen to her. but we love her, and we are proud to have you in our documentary, and Matt, and we honor Matt in it. And I feel like you're family because I see you every day when I'm editing. So which is as a filmmaker, it's a very odd situation because we live with our people that are in our films, and they don't know how much we live with them. Like, we see you every day, Betsy. And Matt.
Thank you. Thank you. It was such an honor. And folks, I highly recommend when this comes out, Susie, you let me know because I'm going to be posting on my page. I want you to come back on. When this comes out, I want you to come back on my show, and we could discuss it even more. But, folks, this is a documentary to see. I would love to see it in theaters. Like, I would like to see it as a Fathom event.
We're going to do that, too. We'll definitely have screening at theaters.
Oh, wow.
And also, I just want to say one last thing. We're going to be doing we are now just organizing an impact campaign to create a movement, an actual movement, national movement, so that we can shame our politicians, let them know that we know that the lobby is in their pocket, and that we want people to actually we want this to change. And the only way we're going to do it is with a movement like the Me Too movement, like the LGBTQ, like the disabilities. We need a big national movement, and we are organizing that now. So stay tuned.
Absolutely. I said 7 years ago, there's a video of me saying we need to have our own Stonewall caregivers. We need a revolution. We do.
Let's do it. I'm ready I'm getting it started. I need help. Any organizers out there that are listening to me, please contact us. We need hands on deck. That
sounds wonderful. Thank you so much. You're welcome. Folks, you heard Susie Singer-Carter. I love her. I love what she does. Also, listen to her podcast. It is phenomenal. Love Conquers All's podcast, wherever you hear your favorite podcast. She has great guests on, wonderful show. And I just I'm in awe of Susie. She's a fierce advocate. Look her up. Google her. Look her up on LinkedIn, Facebook. Go to GoGirlMedia.com, and everything about Susie will be in the blog that Jeannie White, who's the station manager, writes. And Jeannie produces the show, so thank you, Jeannie. And I want to thank Lillian Caldwell, CEO of Passion World Talk Radio, who makes this all possible. And thank you, the listeners, for listening. Please share this show to help other people, to let other people know about Susie, let people know what she's doing, and this wonderful documentary. We just need to get our humanity back, but we need to expose what's going on. And I'm here to help. I'm a resource. Susie is a wonderful resource. I'm here to provide resources and to serve you all, and I need help. So please share the show. And if you don't already, subscribe to Chatting with Betsy for free. Spotify, Spreaker, iHeart, Amazon Music, Apple, to name a few. I just want people to know what's going on and resources to help. Susie and I speak from experience. We don't want you to experience what we experience. That's why we advocate. That's why we talk about our experiences, because we want to help you. That's what we're here for. Yeah. And if you want to follow me, I'm on Facebook, Betsy E. Wurzel, Wurzel, and I have a Facebook group, #Kick Alzheimer's Ass Movement on Facebook. Everyone's welcome. And as I always say at the end of my show, in a world where you can be anything, please be kind, and shine your light bright because we need it now more than ever. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio Network, a subsidiary of Global Media Network, LLC. Bye-bye now.